What's going on, drivers? Welcome to Trucking with Old Snapper. And you got Old Snapper here. I'm headed down, or headed up I-5 in this video in California. Headed up to San Jose. Currently, I'm in San Jose, parked in front of where I deliver at. And wouldn't you know it, they've got a strike going on. The Valley Area Transit, I believe it is on strike. And it's got me really messed up because there would be plenty of room out here for me to park. And I'm kind of in a bad spot, so I'm staying awake, hoping that as the night goes on, they pull out and I can pull up out of this bad spot I'm in and park where I can get some good rest and not have to worry about waking up to a ticket in the morning. Those of you that drive trucks out there, y'all know the feeling. Y'all know exactly what I'm going through right now. Anyhow, in this video, I'm going to talk about things that they don't teach you in trucking school. Things I would say most companies probably don't want you to know. But as a truck driver, you have rights. You have things that you are entitled to, things you can do. There are laws out there to protect you. You just got to know them, and you got to know how to use them properly. And in this video, I'm going to give you what most trucking companies don't want you to know. And unless someone's told you, or unless you've done some reading, you probably don't know it either. But before I get into that, I'm going to tell you a little story. And this goes along with what I'm going to talk about in this video. Years ago, before electronic logs were a thing, we were on paper. At that time, I was at Stevens Transport. And Stevens Transport used to make us, I don't know if they still do this or not, but they used to make us go through classes every time a season changed. So you had summer workshop, winter workshop, etc. And different safety people would give these classes. I was in a class once that Kip Gandy, I believe Gandy's his last name. Kip was his first name. He was one of the safety guys. He was given one of these workshops, and I don't remember which one it was. But the topic came up because as a driver, we were under a lot of stress at Stevens Transport because operations would ask us to do things, or not really ask us. They would force us to do things that were illegal, but they knew we were on paper logs. We could fudge our logs. Some drivers felt like big dogs doing it, and they would do it willingly. Some drivers did get in trouble. Some even went to prison behind it. That happened at a lot of different companies back in the day, because it can happen. If you have an accident, someone gets hurt or killed, and you're over on your hours, you very well can end up in prison. And if you go to prison, you're going to do that time by yourself. If you lose your CDL or hurt your CDL, that company doesn't care. That's all on you. But anyhow, let me get back to the story. We were sitting in one of these classes, and the topic came up. Someone in class had made the statement to Kip, hey, what about when operations or driver manager or dispatcher or whatever, someone calls us wanting us to do this load that we can't legally do. If we refuse it, they're going to do what we used to call money whipping. They'd have you sit somewhere. They'd send you to the meat patch. You'd sit there for several days. They would punish you for not taking it. You wouldn't get rode up. You wouldn't get fired. You would just get punished. It would hurt your paycheck, and sometimes hurt it for weeks. So we were in a spot where we kind of had to do it whether we wanted to do it or not, right? And here's exactly what Kip said, and I'll never forget it. I have been told I cannot punish anybody down there in that side of the building. And he pointed towards operations where the dispatchers and all them said. He said, I can't suspend them. I can't write them up. There's nothing I can do to them, but I can you. And as a driver, if you take that load and you run over on your logs or you get caught fudging your logs and it comes to my attention, I will write you up and possibly suspend you, maybe even terminate you. So it put a lot of pressure on us. And as the case is often with a lot of companies, it still is sometimes, safety, what they're telling you and what operations is wanting you to do doesn't coincide with each other. A well-balanced company, safety, operations, and everything's going to be on the same page, the same level. And back then at Stevens, it was not. And that's why a lot of times I turn my nose up when I hear Stevens drivers talk about safety and what they've been taught. Because Stevens was not about safety, and they're probably still not. And just like most companies out here, they're about a dollar bill. They could care less about the meat in the seat. They're about that dollar bill. And that driver that's running that load, he's going to make the same cents per mile running that load illegally as he would legally. Maybe he got an extra couple 100 miles for the week, but it's not going to amount to enough that it's worth doing time in prison for. That company's not going to go do that time. And if you get caught, like Kip told us back then if we got caught, we would get punished, but nothing would happen to the people sitting behind the walls that gave us the order or put us under that load, and I say forced because if we didn't, we would get punished, and then we wouldn't be able to pay our bills at home, so it was very wrong. How Stevens made it through all that, and there was never any lawsuits over it or anything like that, it's just amazing to me. And who knows, upper management probably didn't know that that's how it was going on downstairs, but that's the way it was. And as a driver, especially new to the industry, I didn't know I had certain rights. There were certain things they could and could not do to me. It was later in learning and experience and reading this book on the FMCSA and different stuff like that I began to learn, hey, there's certain things they can't do. Now, mind you, I went to school at Stevens Transport. I went through their little class up there and all that. They never taught me none of that. And I'm sure most of you who have been through a trucking school at some point in your career, or when you started your career, probably didn't get this information as well. So I'm going to pass this information along to you as a fellow driver. Keep it in your back pocket. It's a heads up in the game. It'll save your life. It'll save your CDL. And if you follow it, it'll keep your freedom. Don't worry about them guys out there that say, oh, don't whine about it. Just grab it and go. I used to do this and I used to do that. Look, at the end of the day, nobody remembers what you did and nobody cares. But if you get caught and something happens and you're sitting in prison, still nobody's going to remember a few months down the road and nobody's going to care. But you're going to care sitting in that 8x10 walking circles every day, bored out of your mind, possibly for the rest of your life, depending on what happens. So let's get into it. Now, throughout this video, I'm going to be posting up here the actual laws, the actual quotes, so that you can see this stuff. You can actually go look it up yourself. I don't remember the numbers right off the top of my head. I think it's in CFR 49, 392, I believe. It's got some of it, but it'll be up here so that you can go look this stuff up yourself or even quote these numbers to your company if you need to. Company is quick to quote FMCSA numbers at us whenever they're trying to get something they want. That kind of goes both ways if you know how to use it. Now, first off, can a company force you to drive tired or sick? No, they cannot. FMCSA actually requires you to stop if you are tired or sick, okay? And this is without repercussions. A company is not allowed to punish you if you were tired or sick. Now, I know some companies out there be like, why were you tired? You're on a 10-hour break. Here's why I really feel like they need more people that are former drivers working in the office. Take, for example, my situation right now. There's nowhere to park in the area that I'm in. And at the moment, I'm parked in a no parking zone, waiting on traffic up here to move after this little strike so that I can move up to a safer place to park. I still have to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm also parked right next to a road. I'm going to have traffic all night long. Trucks, cars. You don't sleep right. You don't get the same sleep when that's going on. Not only that, but I'm in a bad part of town. So the slightest little noise is going to wake me up. If the truck moves at all, wind, anything, it's going to wake me up because I don't know if somebody's trying to get in my truck. So I may wake up tomorrow and be tired, even though I had a 10-hour break, right? But companies don't take none of that into consideration. They say, hey, pick up this load, take it over here and deliver it. They don't take in road construction. They don't take in traffic. They don't take in congestion, where you're going, what neighborhood it's in, where you might have to. They don't care about none of that. They want you to figure all that out and get the maximum amount of miles you can get to benefit them. And they really don't care about anything else in between. But shorthand, no, a company cannot punish you. They can't fire you. They can't write you up. If you're tired to the point that you feel unsafe, that's putting the motoring public at risk. If you're sick and you're not able to concentrate or focus on what you're doing, that's putting the motoring public at risk. They can punish you for that. They can't do anything to you for that legally. And if they do, well, you may own you a trucking company, if you want to take it that far. But they cannot legally do that, all right? I used to work at Creek Carriers, and one of the things I really admired about them, and of course, I don't think I ever used it, but I saw other drivers who did. But if you ever told them you were tired or even hinted that you were tired, Creek, hey, call me, get some rest, call me when you're ready. I mean, it was that simple. I don't know what happened in Creek's background that caused all that. I've heard rumors and stuff like that, but that's exactly how they were, 100%. And they didn't hassle you about it, so keep that in mind. That's a good trucking company. I don't work there anymore, but I don't knock them. They are a pretty decent company. Now, here's another thing. I've heard drivers, and I've encountered this before, where dispatch or safety or somebody's calling you while you're on your 10-hour break. Technically and legally, if they're calling you while you're on your 10-hour break, you can log on duty because you are working. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't do that. If a company would have to really piss me off to make me want to log on duty whenever they call me on my 10-hour break. I mean, they'd really have to piss me off. But legally, I can do that. And legally, I'm supposed to do that. Because anytime you're dealing with company business, you're supposed to be on duty. So if you got a company that's bothering you all the time when you're on your 10-hour break and you're tired of dealing with it, that's a good way to handle it. And it's legal. You can do that. And they're not supposed to be able to retaliate against you or anything like that. And if they did, that would be a real easy one to prove because there's phone records that'll match up with your logs. They're bothering you and you're supposed to be getting your rest. You're not getting your rest. Therefore, they could be creating a safety hazard, putting you and the motoring public at risk. As most of y'all know, I post a lot of videos where I do voiceovers on accidents that happen, especially in the wintertime, pile-ups, jackknives, different things like that. There's almost always multiple people that comment on that video, and they'll say, oh, that's from dispatch pushing them. That's from the company pushing them. And it almost digs up under my skin when I see that, because that tells me that's a driver that doesn't know the law or his or her rights. Okay? If the weather's bad and it's to the point that you don't feel safe on the road, you don't have to drive. You can legally shut that truck down. It's in the FMCSA. The company can't tell you nothing about it. They can't write you up for it. They can't fire you for it. Again, if they did, you may very well not have to work for a while, if you wanted to go that far, because legally they cannot do that. It's in the FMCSA. If you don't feel safe, you can shut that truck down. There's nothing nobody can do about it, period. Now, that's within reason. If they're having a snowstorm in Wyoming and you're on 75 in Florida and you shut down because you got a load going to Wyoming and the company writes you up for it, fires you or whatever, there's no way that's ever going to stand up in court. It's not going to hold no water. You're probably going to have to eat that. Now, if you're on 80 in Wyoming and the wind's blowing 35 mile an hour, roads are starting to ice up, it's bad. Some of the side roads are closed, stuff like that's happening, and you decide to shut that truck down, you're completely within your rights to do that. Nobody can tell you when to get up and go. You get up and go whenever you feel safe, and those roads are at a condition that you feel like you can safely deliver that load. And as you know, sometimes if you have an accident, you may be held liable for that accident. And I guarantee you, if you have an accident, the company's going to put it on your DAC. They're going to report it. I mean, it's that double-edged sword. We're under a lot of stress out here, and a lot of people don't understand that because we got it coming from many different directions. We work in a job where if we make a mistake, it costs us money. It costs us money in miles. If DOT catches it, it costs us money in fines. If the company catches it, they put it on our DAC. It can cost us better jobs. I mean, there's a lot of stress when it comes to driving, a whole lot of stress, which is one of the factors that leads to a lower life expectancy of truck drivers. So don't let this job eat you up. Know your rights. Know what you can and can't do, and do the job and do it to the best of your ability. But protect your CDL, protect your life, protect your livelihood and your freedom. Nobody else out here is going to look out for it for you. And these companies, I'm telling you, I don't care how much they tell you they're family oriented, they don't care about your CDL or your safety either. I mean, they worry about their lawsuits. They worry about their bottom line. As far as your safety, your well-being, they could care less. I'm telling you. When you retire, pass away, or if you have an accident and end up in prison, whatever the case may be, they're going to have your spot filled before your body even gets cold. That seat will probably still be warm when they bring another person out of orientation and throw them in your truck. It ain't on that level. Don't be so loyal to these companies as to put yourself at risk for an organization that's not as loyal to you. I hope this video helps some of y'all out. Share it. Especially share it with these new drivers. Let them know, hey, you do have rights. There are things these companies don't want you to know. There are some things you weren't taught in trucking school. Don't put me at risk. Don't put my family at risk. Don't put your family at risk doing something you don't realize you don't have to do. Y'all take care, stay safe, and keep trucking.